Filmed in front of a live studio audience at Pinhook Provisions, this is No Huntsville.
We live in Huntsville, Alabama, and there's one defining thing that makes us great. And it's not the rockets, or the engineering companies, or the parks, or the food, or even our breweries. It's our people that make us great. These people. We think they're worth celebrating, worth promoting. So tune in and have a drink with us.
Welcome to No Huntsville's Halloween special.
Who's on the show today, Tom?
All right, we got the Little Orange Fish, Huntsville Ghost Walk, Yellow Hammer Brewery, Rag Dolls Events and Catering with special musical guest, the Go-Go Killers. So stay right there. We'll be right back with the Little Orange Fish.
Pinhook Provisions is Huntsville's newest mobile dining destination. Pinhook Provisions is open Tuesday through Friday, hosting Huntsville's finest food trucks serving breakfast and lunch. From ample parking to indoor bathrooms and picnic tables, Pinhook Provisions is the perfect place to try all the eclectic dining options food trucks have to offer. Be sure to check out our Facebook page for a list of the daily food trucks and special events with live music and children's activities. Pinhook Provisions now open on Bob Wallace.
I'm Keith Yeager, head brewer and co-founder of Yellow Hammer Brewing Company, here to show off our new state-of-the-art brew house. We're getting ready to launch, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Start off with our hot liquor tank, and so what this does is it allows us to instantly have 32 barrels, over 700 gallons of hot liquid up to 180 degrees, which is what we will use to run over into our mash tun. This is where we combine the water and the grain, which in turn breaks down the starches that are present in the grain and turns it into a sugar. Then once we're done mashing, we run off into our boil kettle over here, and that's where we can boil over 600 gallons of what brewers call wort, which is unfermented beer. Once we're done with that, we go through our heat exchanger right here. Once we're done with that, we go into one of our fermentation tanks, pitch our yeast, and after that, 2 or 3 weeks later, we have drinkable beer, fresh Yellow Hammer beer. It doesn't get any fresher than over in our tasting room.
Look out for them! Werewolves get healed! 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 I want to
Welcome back to the special Halloween edition of No Huntsville. Want to thank our sponsors right off the bat, Pinhook Provisions, Yellow Hammer for giving us this great beer today, and also Rag Doll Events and Catering. But let's get right to our next guest, Daniel from Little Orange Fish. Thanks for coming in, Daniel.
Thanks for having me.
So why don't you tell us all about Little Orange Fish?
Little Orange Fish is a mental health advocacy group. We focus on education, outreach, and research to eliminate stigma around mental health issues.
Right.
Bring really on the awareness front, it's bringing the cultural change to make sure people understand that mental health is everyone's issue.
Right, yeah.
And so
kind of bringing it out of the shadows and let everybody know that it's not, like you said, take away the stigma of it, right?
Right, and remove this idea that there's a difference between mental and physical health.
Okay.
Health is health.
So when you break your arm, you go and get it fixed, no big deal. But when you break something in your mind, that's the same thing. You need to get that fixed as well, right?
Right.
So taking the stigma away from that. So what does the organization exactly do to help that?
So education related, we have several education outreach programs. The Feelings Are Real program, which is geared towards reaching out into secondary schools, middle and high school, to talk about what mental health is, how to recognize signs and symptoms in yourself and in others when things are not quite right.
Right.
And then how to find help.
So is this just for, is it for a younger audience, or is this for anybody of any ages?
It's focused on all demographics, all ages.
Okay. So you have an event coming up, right? So why don't you talk about that?
So there is an event from the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention.
Okay.
On November 6th, next weekend, next Sunday.
Right.
It's a Out of the Darkness walk, and that is to bring awareness to suicide and how to recognize when it becomes the signs and symptoms. Suicide is a real problem.
Sure.
And an increasing problem.
So
And
let me ask you this. So if you have a friend that maybe you would think could be in risk, what are some of these symptoms that people would look for in order to say, all right, this person may need some help, let me get them in contact with an organization like yours?
Well, the first biggest symptom is the mention of suicide.
So once they say it, obviously
Always
that's a
take it
red flag,
seriously,
right? Yeah.
Right. And then the signs of depression that we should be able to recognize pretty
Right.
readily, that we often, a lot of us deny in ourselves when we feel those symptoms. We become reclusive. We pull away. Or when we see that in those who are close to us.
Sure.
But the biggest indicator, almost invariably, in most cases, when somebody is contemplating suicide, they do talk about it.
All right. So I guess the key is not to brush off some of those signs.
Right.
Take them very seriously. Kind of err on the side of safety, right? And try to get people connected with organizations like yours, right?
And it's bigger than that. I mean, when you see somebody hurting, it's not entirely about preventing suicide. When somebody's suffering, that's what the little orange fish message is we want to give people the freedom to recognize when they're feeling hurt,
Okay.
when they're feeling, like I said, eliminate that stigma,
Right.
get that out of the way, and be able to talk about it, and that will go a long way to preventing the suffering that goes with depression and a whole slew of other mental and emotional illnesses.
Right.
And if we get in front of it, not only do we eliminate the suffering, but or reduce the suffering that we typically ignore right now, but we also go a long way to prevent suicides and reduce what right now is an increasing rate of suicide in this country and in the world, really.
Right. And it seems like building these kind of support groups and getting friends around you and helping to me, is a way to, like you said, take the stigma away, get them out of the shadows, and make them feel like they can talk about some of their issues and hopefully prevent some bad things from happening down the line.
That is the key message. We need to have an ongoing conversation, not talk about suicide whenever there's a high profile suicide. This is something we always need to have.
Is there a place they can go, or do they just call, or how do they get in touch with you?
So littleorangefish.org.
Okay.
We're partnered up, by the way, for this event with Empower Behavioral Health.
Okay.
And at the walk, we'll have a Empower Behavioral Health. We'll have counselors there. We'll have a booth or a table set up, and you can go talk to them. No big deal. And you can realize when you go to talk to them that it is no big deal. They're easy to talk to, and hopefully it'll help a lot of people realize that that's just part of taking care of yourself.
Right, and you're not alone. I think that's a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the organization is Little Orange Fish. Daniel, thank you so much for coming on. Everybody give it up for Daniel. Really appreciate it.
Party women to the wall, they jumped over the gate. But that party got grandma. Too late she realized it was a full moon.
Pinhook Provisions is Huntsville's newest mobile dining destination. Pinhook Provisions is open Tuesday through Friday, hosting Huntsville's finest food trucks serving breakfast and lunch. From ample parking to indoor bathrooms and picnic tables, Pinhook Provisions is the perfect place to try all the eclectic dining options food trucks have to offer. Be sure to check out our Facebook page for a list of the daily food trucks and special events with live music and children's activities. Pinhook Provisions now open on Bob Wallace.
I'm Keith Yeager, head brewer and co-founder of Yellowhammer Brewing Company, here to show off our new state-of-the-art brew house. We're getting ready to launch, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Start off with our hot liquor tank, and so what this does is it allows us to instantly have 32 barrels, over 700 gallons of hot liquid up to 180 degrees, which is what we will use to run over into our mash tun. This is where we combine the water and the grain, which in turn breaks down the starches that are present in the grain and turns it into a sugar. Then once we're done mashing, we run off into our boil kettle over here, and that's where we can boil over 600 gallons of what brewers call wort, which is unfermented beer. Once we're done with that, we go through our heat exchanger right here. Once we're done with that, we go into one of our fermentation tanks, pitch our yeast, and after that, 2 or 3 weeks later, we have drinkable beer, fresh Yellowhammer beer. It doesn't get any fresher than over in our tasting room.
They only a while with their exact kind. They hate everyone like me and you. 'Cause we don't do what they like to do. They think they're really good.
Welcome back to No Huntsville's Halloween edition. We want to thank our sponsors, Pinhook Provisions, Yellowhammer, for giving us the great beer today, and Ragdoll Events and Catering. We want to get to our next guest. We have the Huntsville Ghost Walk in here today. So thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Why don't you tell us all about the Huntsville Ghost Walk?
Well, we have several tours that we do all at the same time. We have a tour through the Twickenham Historic District,
All right.
the Old Town Historic District, and then we go through the Downtown District, which has the most murders. But we tell the history because you need to know why a place is haunted and who haunts it. So we've done a lot of extensive
Right.
research to find out all this information, and then we walk through with a medium who actually communicates with the ghosts.
With the dead.
Yes, so we get the full picture, because
Right.
sometimes what you read in the history books is not always the way that it actually happened. Your writer may have a bias.
Right, sure.
So the ghosts want us to tell their story.
Right. And
And
they
so
never
it's-
have a bias. They tell it straight as it is every time.
Well, that I don't know. We can't prove that. But we have been able to find some very interesting things by talking to the ghosts
Okay.
that we are able to verify through more historical research.
Ah, all right. You're backing up with some facts.
Absolutely.
Which one would you recommend for somebody who's never done it? What's like the intermediate one?
We don't really have a recommendation, except if you're from out of town and there's only one that you can come to. We like to show off the historic Twickenham district, of
Okay.
course, because of the houses. The stories are great. They're completely different on all the tours. We have a haunted trolley tour as well that goes to
Nice.
Maple Hill Cemetery. And we have communicated with the husband number 2, Philip Flanagan, from who was married to Elizabeth Dale Gibbons Flanagan Jeffries High Brown Route, the Black Widow of Hazel Green, who tells us that someone dug up his grave to look at his fingernails,
To look at his fingernails.
Why would they do that?
because that's where arsenic shows up.
All right. And that's how he died.
Well, back in the early 1800s, they didn't have the forensics that we have now, but that was the rumor. He tells us there were no rats in his house.
Except for him. That's why he was poisoned. All right. So when someone goes on one of these tours, what are we going to? How does it work? You walk around, or tell me the exact details of the tour.
You have a tour guide that goes with you, and they have extensively researched the information, and we make sure that they know their stuff. We make sure they can answer about any question.
And they're dressed up, right?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
And it's not necessary. You don't have to believe in ghosts. At the end of the day, we all like ghost stories, and that's
Sure,
why
yeah.
we're there, to have a good time.
Right.
And if you learn something, that's even better.
It's historical too, you know.
It is
yeah.
historical. It's mostly historical. In fact, we have a lot of school kids that come and take our tours because it's a fun way for them to learn history.
Nice. So where would people find more information about the ghost walks?
We have a website, huntsvilleghostwalk.com.
Nice.
We have a Facebook. We try to keep everything as simple as possible. Tonight is our last night. We have a tour at 6 o'clock,
What?
and we have one at 8:30. Trolley's already sold out.
Okay.
We also have a tour in Madison tonight at 6 o'clock that starts at the Old Black Bear Brewery.
Oh, nice.
And we have a tour in Decatur that starts in front of the Old State Bank at 6 o'clock, and it's our last night of the year.
Well, this is the season for it, no doubt. So really excited to have you in. I'm going to go take one of these tours because I'm looking forward to it. We should do this together, Joe.
No way. I'm scared.
We can have somebody hold your hand if we need to.
Okay.
Done. All right.
Have
so
some
that's
spirits
please,
after the spirits.
everybody
are
get up for
fine.
the Huntsville
Spirits
Ghost
for
Walk.
spirits.
Thank you so much for coming in. Big shout out to Ragdoll Catering for the great food today. Thank you so much. Everybody give it up for Ragdoll Catering. Oh, that was awesome.
I'm Keith Yeager, head brewer and co-founder of Yellowhammer Brewing Company, here to show off our new state-of-the-art brew house. We're getting ready to launch, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Start off with our hot liquor tank, and so what this does is it allows us to instantly have 32 barrels, over 700 gallons of hot liquid up to 180 degrees, which is what we will use to run over into our mash tun. This is where we combine the water and the grain, which in turn breaks down the starches that are present in the grain and turns it into a sugar. Then once we're done mashing, we run off into our boil kettle over here, and that's where we can boil over 600 gallons of what brewers call wort, which is unfermented beer. Once we're done with that, we go through our heat exchanger right here. Once we're done with that, we go into one of our fermentation tanks, pitch our yeast, and after that, 2 or 3 weeks later, we have drinkable beer, fresh Yellowhammer beer. It doesn't get any fresher than over in our tasting room.
Back to No Huntsville, we want to thank our sponsors, Pinhook Provisions, Yellowhammer Brewery, for giving us this great beer today, and also Ragdoll Events and Catering. But we do have the brewers here from Yellowhammer Brewing. Guys, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for the beer. Yeah, exactly. All right. All right, we got Keith here in the middle, kind of the head brewer. So why don't you tell us about Yellowhammer Brewing?
Well, Yellowhammer Brewing was formed 6 years ago. We started off of Clinton Avenue, right. And we've kind of transformed Clinton Avenue into Brewers Row. There's 3 breweries there now. Right. We're the ones who started it, but we're proud to see a bunch of new breweries moving in, and it's really becoming a destination.
That's exactly right. And you guys are brewing really good beer over there. So why don't you tell us about? Let's start off.
Beer they brew for us.
I was going to say, yeah. So they brewed this beer for us. That just happened. So we have a Blood Orange Oktoberfest here that you guys give to us. So tell us about this beer in particular right now.
Well, it's more of a traditional Oktoberfest, but we wanted to stick with the Halloween theme and add some blood orange to it.
Right.
And then we added some clove and coriander, so added a little spice to it.
It's wonderful.
And just finished it up a couple days ago.
The blood orange for Halloween. I don't know how smart your audience is, but
blood.
Really smart. Really smart. All right, so let's talk about Yellowhammer as a whole. So what kind of beers are you guys trying to brew over there?
We really focus on a lot of German-style beers, and I say style because we want to have a lot of American influences as well.
Right.
So a lot of our beers are lagers, and then to have the dichotomy that we've always liked to have, we also do a lot of Belgian-style beers as well. And I like that dichotomy because you have very clean tasting beers, and you got some other beers that have a little something more interesting going on. So, for instance, our #1 selling beer is our Belgian White, which is a Belgian wheat beer brewed with lime leaves and ginger. And our #2 is our Rebellion Lager, which is a red lager brewed with all German malts, and it's very smooth, but it has kind of a unique malt profile to it. So,
right. Talk a little bit about Campus 805. I want it because that's like you were saying that now it's become this kind of brewery row, which is really cool. It's kind of an attraction for all of Huntsville to come to and kind of experience different breweries and stuff.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yellowhammer is on one side, Straightdale is on the other.
Right.
We have a nice green space between the two of us.
Right.
Several restaurants have moved in. We have Rock and Roll Sushi, Lone Goose. There is a
you got Salty Nut down the way.
Salty Nut down the way, exactly.
Yeah,
within walking distance. So we're all within probably I'd say a third of a mile away from each other, half a mile walking distance. And,
right.
It's also a short shot from downtown. So it really kind of brings downtown, that part of where Bandito is. It really kind of brings all that together.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, tell me a little bit about how the breweries here in Huntsville. I mean, we got a lot of breweries, right? I mean, we have what's like 9 or 10 breweries here in
It's like
town.
37.
Right. But like, tell me, do you guys work together on stuff? How is the collaboration between the breweries working?
So when we first started out brewing, it was Straight Tail first, Blue
Right.
Pants second, Yellowhammer. We all started within 3 or 4 months of each other.
Right. Yeah.
We bought a bottler to share together once the bottler, we were actually allowed to do 22-ounce beers. And so we shared that amongst each other. We all put in the money for to buy that. And it went really well for the most part. There was some times when we thought we need to get the bottler and we had to pry it out of somebody else's hands. But we all really get along for the most part. We share ingredients. We all want to have the best beer. We actually do have the best beer.
Sure. Right. All right, everybody give it up for Yellowhammer. They have the best beer in town, actually.
I'm sure there'll be some disputes about that. But we get along very well. We see each other out in public. We shake each other's hands. We hug each other, and we drink each other's beers. Insult, compliment each other all the time.
And I think the breweries, I really do believe, in addition to the music scene, but I think the breweries are a big reason why Huntsville is an attraction here. I go out to other different places and notice that people are drinking Huntsville's beer, which is pretty crazy. And it's nice to see that. But I think the breweries are a big reason why the culture here has expanded. People aren't going to bars; they're going to breweries now. That's the thing, man, and it's made this town great. I think it's pretty impressive.
And I think if people understood the kind of passion that all the breweries put into the work that they're doing, that's one of the reasons why people are so attracted to it, because there's a lot of passion that goes in. All the breweries are putting in, they're all as much work as possible as they can into doing this, and it is fun. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of sacrifice, and I think everybody gets to reap the rewards from it.
Yeah, at the end of the day, all that sacrifice, you guys are just having pints together. So I mean,
that's true.
You can't beat that. So everybody, raise a glass to Yellowhammer. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Please give it up for Yellowhammer. Thank you guys for coming in. Pretty awesome. All right.
I'm Keith Yeager, head brewer and co-founder of Yellowhammer Brewing Company, here to show off our new state-of-the-art brew house. We're getting ready to launch, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Start off with our hot liquor tank, and so what this does is it allows us to instantly have 32 barrels, over 700 gallons of hot liquid up to 180 degrees, which is what we will use to run over into our mash tun. This is where we combine the water and the grain, which in turn breaks down the starches that are present in the grain and turns it into a sugar. Then once we're done mashing, we run off into our boil kettle over here, and that's where we can boil over 600 gallons of what brewers call wort, which is unfermented beer. Once we're done with that, we go through our heat exchanger right here. Once we're done with that, we go into one of our fermentation tanks, pitch our yeast, and after that, 2 or 3 weeks later, we have drinkable beer, fresh Yellowhammer beer. It doesn't get any fresher than over in our tasting room.
Pinhook Provisions is Huntsville's newest mobile dining destination. Pinhook Provisions is open Tuesday through Friday, hosting Huntsville's finest food trucks serving breakfast and lunch. From ample parking to indoor bathrooms and picnic tables, Pinhook Provisions is the perfect place to try all the eclectic dining options food trucks have to offer. Be sure to check out our Facebook page for a list of the daily food trucks and special events with live music and children's activities. Pinhook Provisions now open on Bob Wallace.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Go-Go Killers.
Hallelujah, brothers and sisters. It's good to be here on the Valley CWNO Huntsville on the Halloween show. We got a couple of brand new tunes for you. This one is called She Goes, Ooh, Ah, and it goes like this. 1, 2, 3, go. Her name was Big Shell. She both a her and a ham. And in the course, she said, both of them too, she said, just a time to a handful of right, don't tell you over, but I can say, ooh, ah. She says, ooh, ah. Still want a pinhead man. Kirby, baby, wicked machine. But in between the ears, whoa, she was a that thing alike. A many a hot dog, I found a way into her butt. She kept Kirby, baby, go cheer up everyone. How do you voodoo? How do you voodoo, baby? How do you voodoo? How do you voodoo? How do you voodoo? Do you? How do you voodoo? How do you voodoo? She's a sex bomb, baby. She ran to explode. She wouldn't do what she left and what she needed. It's all alone. It's common though she didn't know what the Jesus she was doing. And any of it, will get her naked and a smooth. How do you voodoo? 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 Do you? The voodoo, tell me. How do you voodoo? How do you voodoo? How do you voodoo? How do you voodoo? She's raised a mother's milk, chicken parts, dogs and grits. She grew up in a club and curvy hips and perfect teeth. Like mama, like a daughter, all she learned them to do. How that was how the voodoo do. That's the voodoo. How do you voodoo? How do you voodoo, baby? How do you voodoo? How do you voodoo? How do you voodoo? Do you? The voodoo, tell me. How do you voodoo? 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 How do you voodoo?